Ritual and warning. Every Friday, like clockwork, Clarence Darnell pulled into the same narrow parking space at Gene's Roadhouse Grill, just off Eastern Avenue in Savannah. His old Ford Ranger coughed twice before going quiet, and he stepped out in jeans pressed that morning, a burgundy flannel shirt buttoned to the throat, and his army-issued cap tilted slightly forward like a man who kept watch even during dinner. He never needed a menu. Medium rare ribeye, house fries, collard greens, and a glass of iced tea. 2 sugars, no lemon. That was Clarence's ritual, and in this town, rituals mattered. Inside, the air smelled of mesquite and beef fat. The floors creaked under heavy boots. Locals filled the booths, contractors with sunburned necks, retired school teachers, the occasional cop on break. Folks didn't make a fuss about Clarence. They just gave him space the way you do with men who've seen more than they'll ever say. He always chose the booth by the window. From there, he could watch both the parking lot and the entrance. Habit, reflex, the residue of years spent guarding his own back when nobody else would. Tonight felt different, not in any flashy way, just different. Bernice, the usual waitress with the loud bracelets and louder voice, wasn't there. Instead, a new face approached. Mid to late 20s, pale skin, ponytail pulled tight like she was trying to hold herself together. Her name tag read E. Carver. She clutched her notepad like it might bite. "Hi there. I'll be taking care of you tonight," she said, smiling with effort. "You ready to order?" "Medium rare ribeye. Fries and greens." "Yeah, svet." She blinked, pen moving quickly. He added no lemon. She nodded, scribbled, and turned for the kitchen. It should have ended there, but 5 minutes later, she returned with nothing on her tray. She stood beside the table, glancing toward the swinging doors. Sorry, what was your name?" "Clarence." She leaned in slightly. "Clarence, can I ask how long you plan on staying tonight?" He narrowed his eyes just a hair. "Long enough to finish my meal." Hesitation tugged at her mouth. Then she looked straight at him, voice barely above a whisper. "They don't want you here tonight." It hit like a dropped fork. Clarence didn't freeze dramatically. His mind simply shifted from relaxed to ready. "Come again." She scanned the room. The laughter, the clink of silverware, the classic rock murmuring under it all, and leaned closer. "They don't want you here. I thought you should know." His fingers curled lightly on the table's edge. "Who's they?" Her eyes flicked past the bar to the corner booth tucked in shadows. 4 men sat there, a bald head with tattooed arms, a goateed smirk, and 2 hunters straight from a catalog. Their eyes were already on him. "You sure the warning was meant for me?" he asked. "I don't joke with tables," she said. "And I'm new, week and a half. Already getting messages for other people?" "Not messages," she murmured. "Overheard something. Thought you'd want to know." He studied the years she hadn't yet lived and found something steadier than fear. The tea arrived then, eyes clinking like it was nervous too. "You want to sit?" he asked. Emily glanced toward the kitchen, then slid across from him fast, like time might revoke the chair. "I'm not supposed to be off the floor." Then talk fast. "What exactly did you hear?" "They've been coming in for weeks. Same group, same booth. Last Friday they left a note. Certain types of customers make the place feel tense." "No names." Clarence raised an eyebrow. "Certain types. They said the man who always wears a flannel shirt and a veteran's cap. The one who sits by the window." Silence pressed between them while the restaurant kept moving around their still point. "And Gene's okay with that." "I don't know what Gene thinks. I've only met him once. His son, Travis, runs the place now." She swallowed. "One of those men is Logan Mercer. We went to high school. Trouble followed him like a stray dog. but it never stuck. Family money. Now he runs a contractor crew, Clarence said, following the trail. Tips heavy, plays generous, expects deference. She nodded, and whispers about who belongs. He exhaled through his nose, slow. You afraid of him? I'm afraid of where this kind of talk goes, and of being the only one who says a thing. He weighed her courage. What do you want me to do? I wanted you to be ready, she said, so you don't get blindsided. Well, Clarence said, taking a calm sip of tea, I'm ready now. He nodded. Table stakes. 10 seconds after Emily slipped through the kitchen doors, the chair across from Clarence scraped. He didn't look up. The voice told him enough. Low, smug Southern. I see you still like that corner table. Clarence raised his eyes. A man in a gray shirt sat smiling without warmth, sleeves rolled past the elbows, buzz cut too tight for the decade. Logan Mercer, Clarence said. Logan leaned back like they were old friends. Heard you come every Friday. Figured I'd introduce myself, since we're both loyal customers. Can't say I was waiting on that privilege, Clarence replied. Some folks just don't mix, Logan said, drumming fingers. When you see patterns, it's polite to say so. Speak plain, Clarence said. To keep the place comfortable, Logan said. Change the ingredients too much, and the flavor changes. I know exactly what you mean. Logan's grin tightened. You're ex-military. You understand order. I understand pushing back when orders are garbage. This ain't personal, Logan said. Some places work better when folks know their lane. Yours isn't this one. The silence went hot. Clarence leaned in. I've earned the right to sit where I want and exist without permission. This isn't about the law, Logan said. It's about comfort. Mine, there's even hers. He nodded toward the kitchen. She warned you because she's scared. When people like you make noise, folks like her catch the heat. Clarence folded his arms. What happened to you? Come again. You had every chance in the world, Clarence said. Yet here you are, worried about a 62-year-old man's dinner. Somewhere you started fearing shadows. Logan dropped his voice. Keep showing up. See what happens when shadows fight back. Clarence stood, unhurried. You picked the wrong old man. When he returned, the corner booth was empty. 4 napkins, a half plate of ribs, a crumpled receipt. Emily was nowhere. He flagged a busboy. You see my server? Emily? Out back, I think. 5 minutes ago. Tell the kitchen to fire the ribeye. Medium rare. Fries and greens. Tell him I'm still here. The kid swallowed and shuffled away. Through the side window, Clarence could see a sliver of alley. Red brick, dented dumpster, a humming AC unit. He waited 5 minutes. Then 10. No steak. No Emily. He stepped into the night. Heat wrapped him. Grease salted the air. Voices carried from behind the dumpster, muffled and taut. Emily stood by the rear exit, arms crossed, flushed, chin lifted. Opposite her, Logan kept his voice low. You said you were done with this, she hissed. I'm looking out for people, he said. You don't know what kind of men those are. That man served, she shot back. Been coming here longer than I've worked here. He tips better than any of your boys. Logan stepped closer. He doesn't belong. Because of what? She said. A window seat and a steak. Logan changed tone. I can get you fired with one call. Try me, she said. Clarence stopped pretending he wasn't there. He stepped into view. She won't be losing her job tonight, he said. Not if I have a say. Logan turned. This ain't your business, old man. It became my business when you sat at my table. Clarence moved between them. I've lived long enough to know exactly what men like you try when no one's looking. You picked the wrong pair. For a beat, no one moved. Then Logan exhaled hard and cut his eyes toward Emily. This what you want? Fine. Don't say I didn't warn you. He slipped away into the dark. Emily sagged, then straightened. You didn't have to do that, she said. Clarence watched the lot's edge. Sure I did. The night pressed in. This is bigger than dinner. He won't let it go, she said quietly. He'll come back and either make me the problem or make you the example. Let him come, Clarence said, voice. I've fought worse than men who hide behind steak knives and contracts. They stood there listening to the AC buzz fill the silence. In that thin strip of light behind a family restaurant, a line was being drawn, not with a shout, but with a decision to keep standing. The alley line. They stayed in the alley longer than either intended. The AC's buzz stitching sound into the heat. Emily rubbed her arm the way people do when they're trying not to shake. Clarence kept his stance easy, hands loose at his sides. You said Logan used to mess with you, he said quietly. That wasn't high school mischief. That was a pattern. She nodded. He was cruel, not in obvious ways, just under the radar. Always had someone to vouch for him. Coaches, teachers who looked the other way. Then it all disappeared from his record. And now he runs a crew. Roofing, remodeling. 12 men, give or take. Gene's son gave him a discount on jobs, so they started bringing business back. Cash on the table. Light beer. Big tips. Plays the part. Plays the part, Clarence echoed. She looked up at him. But every Friday, if someone walks in who doesn't look like them or act like them, something changes. One night a black couple sat at the bar. 15 minutes after Logan arrived, his boys got up and walked out. Wouldn't order a thing. Clarence took that in, jaw ticking once. Anybody else notice? Kitchen staff. A few regulars. People don't say much. They're trying to keep their heads down. That silence can cost more than a paycheck, he said. She searched his face. You think I'm stupid for saying something? No, he said, square as a fence post. I think you're the only one around here who remembers what decency looks like. A sad smile touched her mouth. Decency doesn't pay rent. I've got a 4-year-old. His dad left before he turned 2. I need this job. I need tips. But I can't look my kid in the face every morning knowing I kept quiet because it was easier. Clarence took out his wallet, tucked 2 20s into her hand. That's not pity. It's thanks for telling me, and for doing what others wouldn't. She tried to give it back. He closed her fingers gently. You're not invisible, Emily. If it makes you feel like you are, you call me. She folded the bills carefully and hid them in her apron. He's not done, she said. He'll make me the problem or make you the example. Clarence studied the dark seam where the lot met the street. Let him come back, he said. I fought worse than a man who hides behind steak knives and contracts. She gave a small laugh that wasn't quite humor. When I first saw you, I thought just another regular. Quiet. Polite. Now what? He asked. Now I think I'd feel safer if this place were full of men like you. Then maybe there's hope for this town. The back door swung open and the busboy leaned out, hair damp with sweat. Manager's looking for you, Emily. If you're not back on the floor in 2 minutes, you can go home. She wiped her hands on her apron and sighed. That's my cue. Go on, Clarence said. I still haven't had that steak. She slipped inside. The heavy door thudded shut, leaving Clarence alone with the humming heat. The threat hadn't left. It had changed shape. He took a slow breath and followed the light back into the dining room. Inside, things looked normal, but the rhythm had shifted. Conversations carried on, yet the air felt thinner, like everyone was trying not to notice something that had already happened. His table waited by the window. A fresh glass of tea had been set next to the old one. A tall, wiry man in a tucked button-down stood from the booth across the aisle and gave a practiced smile. The tag read Travis Landry. "Mr. Darnell," he said, hand hovering like it might become a shake if invited. "Apologies for the wait. We had some confusion in the kitchen." "Confusion," he said mildly. "That the only thing going on back there?" "Of course. Emily didn't put your ticket in right away, but we'll comp the meal tonight." Clarence slid into his seat, eyes on the man. "You sure you heard that from Emily, and not from Logan? It's known you're a veteran. You wear the cap." "I earned this cap," Clarence said. "Didn't buy it to make conversation." The manager chuckled without mirth. "We appreciate your service." Clarence folded his hands. "Your staff has seen how certain customers act. They've heard things. Instead of addressing it, you're hoping the noise dies down. This is a family restaurant. People come here to relax, not argue politics." "This isn't politics," Clarence said. "It's basic decency. If that's too hard to manage, you've got no business running your daddy's restaurant." Travis tried to regroup. "Emily's been through a lot," he said quietly. "I gave her a shot when others wouldn't. If she starts stirring things up, I can't protect her." "She doesn't need protecting," Clarence said, tone cooling. "She needs backup. There's a difference." Travis stood, retreating. "Your steak will be out soon. I'll make sure it's done right." 5 minutes later, the plate arrived. Hot steak seared just right, fries crisp, greens steaming. "Sorry for the delay." "No need," Clarence said. "You all right?" "Travis told me to be careful what I say to customers. Said I might have misunderstood." "Did you?" "Not even a little." Clarence cut into the steak, slow and deliberate. "Then let it be nervous," he said. "That's how things change. The room hears it." Clarence ate in silence, not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind you enter when your thoughts get loud. The steak was perfect. He tasted none of it. Emily moved table to table with a polite smile, stretched thin. She told him more truth in 20 minutes than some people do in a year. Now it was his turn. He laid down his fork, wiped his mouth, and stood. The room wasn't loud, but it wasn't quiet either. He didn't need to raise his voice to be heard. He simply carried it to the front counter where Travis stood talking to the hostess. "Travis," Clarence said. The manager turned, startled. "Everything okay, Mr. Darnell? I hope the meal." "I paid for it," Clarence said. "And I'm not leaving without saying what needs saying." Travis's smile faltered. "Maybe we should talk in my office." "No," Clarence replied. "We're going to talk right here, in front of whoever's listening." Several heads turned. Conversation softened. The bartender stopped wiping the same glass. "I've been eating here 6 years," he said. "Never caused trouble. Never asked for a thing. Tonight, I watched a woman half your age show more courage than I've seen in a long time." "You're making this worse," Travis murmured. "You're worried about the wrong kind of worse. You've got customers turning this room into a clubhouse. They leave notes. They whisper to management about certain types. And you, instead of shutting it down, feed it because it's easier." Clarence kept his eyes on Travis. "You don't want conflict? Then stop serving the kind of folks who bring it in with them." Travis crossed his arms, trying for cool. "This isn't the place for speeches." "Then stop running it like a stage," Clarence said. Silence slid over the room. A fork clinked 3 tables over. Emily cleared her throat. She had come up behind them, pale but steady. "I like to say something," she said. Travis drew a breath to object, then let it out. Emily stepped beside Clarence. "I've worked here long enough to know what's been happening. I'm not the only one who's seen it. There's been favoritism, harassment, pressure to ignore what we know is wrong. Pressure to keep certain customers happy. He's not the problem." She nodded toward Clarence. "If standing beside him cost me my job, then maybe this isn't a job I should have fought so hard to keep." The restaurant went quiet enough to hear grease crackle in the kitchen. Clarence gave her a small nod, then looked back at Travis. "You can run your daddy's steakhouse how you want," he said, "but don't pretend you don't know what's going on. Either be part of the solution or be another man keeping quiet until the storm passes." He turned away then, not dramatic, just finished. He walked back to his table, took the receipt, and lifted his cap. The room exhaled, the way rooms do when someone breaks a spell. He pushed through the door and into the night. Warm Savannah, air pressed against him. He sat in his truck with the window down, forearms resting on the wheel, and let the gold spill of Gene's neon fall across the pavement. He hadn't meant to make a speech. That wasn't his way. But something about Logan's smirk and Travis's practiced shrug had lit a fuse Clarence thought had gone cold years ago. He almost turned the key. Headlights swept the lot and pinned the frontage in white. A lifted white Dodge pulled hard into a space. 3 men jumped down before the truck stopped rocking. Logan climbed out last, adjusting his belt like a man arriving to straighten something out. Clarence didn't wait to be surprised. He stepped out of the Ranger and met them halfway to the doors. "You forget your leftovers?" he said. Logan's posture shifted, plan interrupted. "Didn't expect you still here." "Funny," Clarence said. "I figured you'd be gone by now." Pride makes folks move faster than they should. The 2 men behind Logan folded their arms and waited for a cue. The parking lot lights hummed. Somewhere a cicada decided to add its racket to the night. "You made your little scene," Logan said. "That doesn't change how things work around here." Clarence tilted his head toward the windows, where the room's reflections wavered like a pond. That girl in there made a choice. She stood up while everyone else pretended not to see. "And what happens to people who do that?" Logan asked. "They lose." "Sometimes," Clarence said. "Not always. Sometimes people like you don't get the last word." Logan snorted. "You think speeches scare me? I think you've had this town in your back pocket so long you forgot how respect is earned," Clarence said. "Intimidation isn't strength. It's cowardice with a truck bed." The words hung between them as the door opened behind the glass. The moment was ready to break. Clarence squared his shoulders and let the next choice be Logan's. Night terms. Logan looked at the others, a quick check for loyalty, then squared up as if the lot were a ring. The cicadas droned. A siren far off faded. Clarence didn't move. He didn't puff himself up or reach for anything. He planted his feet like a fence post in good soil and let the quiet build until somebody had to speak or choke on it. "You can't win this," Logan said, thinner than before. "Not trying to win," Clarence answered. "Trying to stop losing." One of the younger men shifted. The overhead light made his shaved head shine. "We're just here to eat," he said, eyes never meeting Clarence's. "You were here to teach a lesson," Clarence said evenly. "Consider one taught." The door swung open behind glass. 2 teenage hosts hovered. Through the window, Emily stood near the counter, phone in hand but not dialing. Travis waited by the point-of-sale terminal, rigid as a ruler. The room watched the lot. The lot waited on a sentence. Logan rolled his shoulders. "Old man, you keep showing up, and this town will make room without you." "The town is bigger than your table," Clarence said. "Bigger than your crew, your discounts, your generosity." "Big talk," Logan said. "What happens when word dries up? Because people don't like eating under a sermon." "Then maybe they'll learn to cook," Clarence said, and a few laughs fluttered against the glass. Logan heard them. Pride stung, authority chipped. A police cruiser turned onto the far end of the lot, not in response, just on its loop. The sight drew a seam of caution across shoulders. The officer slowed, scanned, and kept rolling. No saviors here. Just witnesses with badges tonight. Last chance, Logan said, pulling the words taut. Walk away. I already did, Clarence said. From fear. From silence. From asking permission to eat a steak. The youngest man cleared his throat. Boss, he murmured, there's cameras. He tipped his chin at the dome above the door and the rectangle on the eave. The reminder wasn't about law. It was about losing the story later. Logan's jaw worked. In Clarence he saw, maybe for the first time, something he couldn't bully. A man with no appetite for theater and no room left for shame. Power built on flinching had nowhere to anchor. He jerked his head. Let's go now. They turned. Boots thudded. Doors slammed. The truck coughed and roared and angled back onto Eastern. Clarence didn't move until the tail lights bled into the oak-shadowed street. Only then did he release the breath he'd been holding. Not fear, focus easing back in a flesh. He went inside. Spice and fryer heat wrapped him. The room tried to pretend he wasn't there and failed. A man at the bar lifted his glass a fraction. A woman at a corner table set a hand on her husband's forearm like a hush. Travis came forward with the look of someone counting costs on a ledger only he could see. You didn't have to take it outside, he said stiffly. It was already outside, Clarence said. You just didn't step there. We can't have confrontations, Travis said. Families. Then stop feeding the ones who bring confrontation in, Clarence said. The trouble isn't speaking up. It's letting someone else own your room. Emily approached with a towel still in her hand, eyes darker than the mascara ring around them. You okay? I'm fine, Clarence said. You? She nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again. Relief and dread wrestled. He'll be back, she said softly. Maybe, Clarence said. Maybe not to your door. He looked at Travis. You make that call. Travis glanced toward the window, toward the truck already gone. He brings business, he said, with less conviction. He's connected. What you tolerate defines you, Clarence said. Put that on the wall if you need a sign. The line landed. Travis took it like a weight. He nodded once. I'll think. Think quick, Clarence replied. The night's already teaching you. A family came in, a mother, father, and a girl in a softball jersey. They hesitated at the door and then kept moving past the memory of heat into the simple one of dinner. The room resumed its hum, a little truer, a little less brittle. Clarence returned to his booth, reclaimed his cap from the vinyl, and sat with the steadiness of a tide coming back after a storm. The ledger of choices. The room found its hum again, tentative but true. Clarence's plate cooled. The hinge of the night stayed warm. Travis stood at the counter, eyes pinging between receipts and door. You said you'd think, Clarence told him. I am, Travis said, hands braced on laminate. Thinking is a bridge, Clarence said. Somewhere it has to land. Travis stared at the glass where reflection and street braided. Dad ran this place 34 years. He didn't have to post rules to make folks behave. He also didn't hand Logan a discount, Clarence replied. Different inputs, different outcomes. He brings a dozen men, Travis said. Tips. Tells other crews to come. Payroll doesn't meet itself. What you tolerate defines you, Clarence said. You can put that on the wall, or admit it's already written there. Emily came over, towel on shoulder, hair half out of its tie. I want a job where I don't have to look away, she said. Where I can seat a black couple without wondering which door your regulars will use to leave. Travis pinched the bridge of his nose. Emily, you've had a hard year. I gave you a shot because... No, she said. You gave me a schedule. A shot is backing me up after you hand me the apron. He flushed. You calling me a coward? I'm calling you the owner, she said. Act like one. Silence opened. Not threat, but truth coming. Clarence let it stand. I didn't ask to inherit this, Travis said finally. Dad died in March. I've just been keeping it going. Keeping isn't leading, Clarence said. Leadership is learnable. It starts with one choice. Post a policy, Emily said. Tell the staff we're backed when we enforce it. If someone doesn't like it, they can eat somewhere else. Clarence smiled a notch. Line item, courage. Travis exhaled, surrender mixing with resolve. I'll write something. Tonight. And I'll tell Jean why. Good, Clarence said. Put your name on it. A couple paid at the register. The man said, good food. Then, after a beat, good to hear people care too. He left the 20 and walked out holding his wife's hand. Not a speech. A vote. Closing crept over the room. Chairs flipped. The kitchen clanged and quieted. Clarence tucked bills into the check and added a little more for a delay that wasn't Emily's fault. You'll get pushback, he said at the door. Measure it against what you'll gain. What do we gain? Travis asked, sounding young. A room you're proud to stand in, Clarence said. A future that doesn't smell like fear. Outside, under the buzzing sign, Emily joined him with a bus tub. I don't think he knows what to do, she said, watching Travis through the window. He'll learn, Clarence said, or he'll lose. That's the math. She huffed a small laugh. I'm used to people walking away when things get hard. You didn't. I walked away from other things, he said. Some I regret. Not this. You think it'll change anything? Maybe not at once, he said. But nights like this shake something loose. A car pulled in. A black man and a Latina woman stepped out mid-conversation. They hesitated half a second, then pushed through the door, smiling at the hostess. No flinch. Just dinner. See? Clarence said. Emily hugged the tub and nodded. See you Friday? Wouldn't miss it. He drove home, windows down, radio off, smoke and salt clinging to his shirt. In his recliner, he watched the fan spin until the room lost edges and the day settled. Sleep came, not erasing anything, but laying it in order, truly like coins in a row for the morning count. On the drive, he passed the dark river and thought about other nights when a line had been drawn quieter than a headline. On a bus, in a yard, in a chow hall where someone decided who sat where. He thought of mobile summers, of sand that stuck to everything, of sergeants who said courage wasn't loud, just consistent. He almost called Emily to say rest. He didn't. Let the moment set, he told himself. Setting makes a hold. The sign on the door. Morning made the restaurant look smaller, all shine and checklists. Travis stood at the hostess stand with black cardstock and a silver paint pen. He tried 3 versions before settling on the fewest words he could live under. Respect is served here. Under it, smaller. All guests. All staff. No exceptions. He taped it beside the hours and the catfish special. In the reflection, he saw the same face he'd used to practice being a grown man in his father's mirror, a boy stretching into a shape that fit only when he stopped pretending. A mail carrier read the sign, opened the door, and said, "About time. Votes, not speeches." Back office. Travis called Jean. Voicemail. "I put up a policy," he said. "We had a situation last night. I'm backing the staff. If anyone doesn't like it, they can eat somewhere else." He hung up feeling lighter and heavier at once. By lunch, the sign wore a ring of fingerprints from people pointing without touching. A few regulars nodded. One order to go. The kitchen found rhythm, freed by clarity. Emily came for dinner with her shoulders less tense. She read the sign twice, then looked at Travis. "You did it." "I did," he said. "If it costs us, it costs us." It will pay, she said. Maybe not in the column you're used to. Seat them how you'd want to be seated, he told her. If anyone gives you trouble, send them to me. Trouble tried early. A man in a camo cap stared too long at a mixed group laughing over wings and tea. Emily walked by slow enough to be seen and fast enough to deny friction. He glanced at the sign, shook his head, and ate his burger with the television. 2 days later, Clarence's phone rang while he trimmed azaleas. Emily's voice was breathless with relief. Logan's crew didn't come back this Friday. Good, he said, wiping sweat with his bandana. And Travis put the sign up, she added. Respect is served here. He stood by it when some guy scoffed. Said all guests, all staff, no exceptions. I almost cried. That's a start. I meant what I said, she went on. If standing up cost me this job, maybe it wasn't one worth fighting for. But tonight, feels worth it. Then keep doing it. And Emily, yeah. If he ever steps toward you again, call before you finish the thought. I will. You coming in? Wouldn't miss it. That Friday he parked at 607, not superstitious, just keeping faith with himself. The sign on the glass caught the sunset and burned brighter than neon. Inside, families talked. 2 teenage boys split fries. A couple argued lovingly about sharing greens. Nothing dramatic. Just life. At the counter, Travis watched the room like it was new. When his eyes met Clarence's, they didn't nod. They didn't need to. 2 men had moved the same direction on the same night and found firmer ground. Emily reached his table with tea before he asked. 2 sugars. No lemon. Ritual, he said. Ritual, she echoed, smiling without caution. Your booth is yours. He sat by the window, cap brim shading the reflection so he could see the lot and the door in the same glance. The words on the glass, respect is served here, ghosted across his face like a brand he chose. The steak came 15 minutes later, medium rare, fries hot, greens bright with vinegar and heat. For the first time in a long while, he tasted every bite. That week brought the first test. A man pointed at the sign and said, So you're picking sides now? I'm picking standards, Travis answered. You're welcome to eat here under them. The man hovered at the threshold of bluster, then paid for his meatloaf and left a tip. In the kitchen, someone started humming. It sounded like wheels catching. A review appeared online. Place went woke. Another followed. Best service I've had here in years. They balanced each other like 2 weights on the same scale. Emily read them after her shift, exhaled, and turned off her phone. Ritual renewed. The week curved back to Friday and found Clarence where it always did. The Ranger easing into the same narrow space, the engine coughing twice, the cap brim set, so he could watch the door and the lot with one glance. Inside, the scuffed floors carried new weight, the way a room feels when its rules match its soul. Emily met him with tea. 2 sugars, she said. No lemon. He let the glass sweat rings onto the table. The steak came right, hot, ruby-centered, the greens bright with vinegar and heat. He ate slower than usual, not to linger, but because the taste mattered again. Around him, people watched each other without suspicion. A couple negotiating dessert, the mail carrier taking a late plate, a boy in a softball jersey lifting a small trophy to show his mother how it caught the light. Travis drifted by, not hovering. Everything to your liking? It is, Clarence said. And the room's to my liking, too. I talked to Gene, Travis said. He told me Dad used to say a restaurant is a promise. You break it 1 table at a time, and you mend it the same way. Your father was right, Clarence said. You kept your name on the door. We'll lose some business, Travis admitted, glancing at the Windows sign. You'll gain better. Clarence said. People don't come for food alone. Emily swung by with extra napkins and the check. She lingered. Thank you, she said, eyes steady. For what? For not making me feel crazy when I heard what I heard, she said. For standing where I was afraid to stand alone. He reached for his wallet, then paused. Don't let them teach you to stay quiet just to stay safe, he said. Quiet has its place. Not that kind. She nodded like she was filing the sentence for days ahead. I won't. He tucked a crisp 50 into the folder and slid it back, enough to say keep going. He rose, adjusted his cap, and swept the room. The cook scraping the flat top, the bartender stacking glasses, the boy biting a brownie, people meeting eyes without shrinking. Outside the air was amber. He paused and read the sign as a blessing. Respect is served here. He had known rooms where that sentence sounded like a joke. He let this one truly ride over them. By the truck he stopped, tempted to fix the lesson with a final line. He didn't. Some words earn less than silence. Through the window, he saw Emily at the counter, rotating the tip jar so the slit faced the door. Not protection, exactly readiness. 2 days later, while he oiled a hinge, the phone rang. Emily again lighter. Just an update, she said. It's been quiet. Not the weak kind, the good kind. A family came in I've never seen. Sat at the bar. Stayed for pie. That's the kind of quiet that holds, he said. And Logan? No sign, she answered. But if he comes, I know what to do. Travis does too. Then my work here is finished, Clarence said. Your steak will still be here, she said. So maybe not finished. Fair, he said, and he laughed when she did. Friday rolled around again. The Ranger found its place. The door chimed. The sign shone. Clarence settled into his booth, a man still keeping watch, but not alone anymore. Ritual had become more than comfort. It was covenant now, between a room and the people in it, between a young mother and a stubborn manager, between a veteran and the years that taught him which fights mattered and which could be walked past. He felt the room settle around him like a well-worn jacket, a fit earned by use and repaired by hands willing to stitch. Sometimes the loudest stand is a voice leaning close. They don't want you here tonight. Sometimes the answer is a chair pulled back. I'm staying anyway. And sometimes the echo of both fills a place long after the plates are cleared, a promise you can taste if you slow down enough to notice it on a long road.